Genesis 12:2. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. In Genesis 12:2, God makes a promise to Abraham. He says, I will bless thee, and thou shalt be a blessing. This isn't just about a promise for Abraham, but it also shows us something about who God is. God doesn't just want to bless us, but he invites us to work with him. And as we do, we grow closer to him and our lives begin to bless others too. And that got me thinking about a simple analogy. So when I'm making dinner, I can definitely do it faster on my own. But sometimes I'll invite one of my daughters to come help me. And it's slower and it's messier, but we're doing it together. And I'm not inviting her because I really need her help, but because I love her and I want her to learn and grow. And I wonder if God is like that with us. He doesn't really need us to do things for him, but he invites us in. So his promise isn't just that we'll be blessed, it's that he'll be with us. And that through our lives, that blessing doesn't just stop with us, but continues to others. Just like the promise God made to Abraham, that through him he would bless many. That promise doesn't stop with him. It can and does continue on through us. And as we work with God, we begin to bless others, building up the people around us over and over. And over time, it begins to grow, almost like layers building on each other, like this. Each life touching another and becoming part of something bigger. And that's exactly what I was thinking about with this painting. As we paint these leaves one around another, layer by layer, no single leaf stands on its own. Each one is shaped by what surrounds it. And together they create something fuller and more beautiful. Grab your supplies and let's get started. All right, for this painting, you are going to want to tape off your paper. You are going to need a pencil. We're going to be doing some very simple drawing. And also for this one, I would highly, highly recommend that you use a heat tool or a blow dryer because there's actually quite a bit of layers here that we're going to be doing. And it's just easier if you have a dryer to just quickly dry your layers in between. So I'm going to begin by warming up on my scripture page here. And I like to warm up with just some water and a very light wash of color. So by painting with water, I'm able to get a very light wash. Light wash meaning that it is more transparent. And for some of you who are not new to this, I know I'm repeating myself, but I know that there are sometimes friends that come in a little bit later, and I want to make sure that you feel like I'm explaining things. So with that water put down first, I can then drop in my color. I'm kind of scribbling with my paint here because I just want a really light wash. And one thing that I want to note is actually for this painting, it'll be important that you understand different watercolor strengths and how to make things lighter or darker or more or less transparent is really what I mean to be able to get this effect. Now, usually I've got a much bigger brush. I don't know why I grabbed this brush, but here I am with this brush. I'm going to just go ahead and finish this out. Now, if you are new here and you didn't know, you can also sign up at the link that's in the description of this video to be able to get a printable sent to you of the scripture, so you can just cut it out and glue it in or use washi tape or whatever if you prefer. And also if you sign up, it's all free. Look, it's all free. But if you sign up, you also get access to the videos before everyone else does. So that's just my way of saying thank you very much. Okay, I'm just popping in a little bit more color here and there just for fun. I started a few strokes up and down and I thought that looks interesting, so I think I'm going to do that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick dry and then we will get into our painting. All right, before we get started, I just wanted to do a quick demo with you on watercolor strength. So watercolor has transparency to it, right? We can see the paper underneath. That is what makes watercolor, pretty unique, right? Now we can create more of a medium strength. So this would be like a light strength or light wash. I bet we could even go lighter than that. But we can create something that feels more pigmented and a little bit less transparent by adding more pigment and less water. Now, if I really wanted to go even more, I've cleaned my brush, I've wiped it on my paper towel, and then we can go even a step above, right? And that is by, again, less water. Now, if I wanted something that felt even more transparent than this, I could also, I didn't really give myself space, did I? But I could paint with water first and then add just a hint of pigment where you can almost not even see it, right? Now, when it comes to this painting, we need to be able to use a variety of watercolor strengths to be able to achieve the look that we're going for. So I'll kind of walk you through it. Well, obviously that's what I'm here for, right? I will absolutely walk you through it and it's going to be awesome. So we're not going to do any drawing yet. We're actually going to be starting by wetting our paper, all of it. So I've got a larger brush so I can do this quickly. And I'm going up and down. My paper is nice and shiny. And then I will go side to side. Okay, really making sure that that is nice and wet. I don't have big puddles, but it is really wet. Now from here, I'm going to spray my watercolors. I'm going to stick with greens. Okay, I'm just going to pop in some color, just like how I did my warm-up. And what I'm going for is a light wash. Remember, watercolor is going to dry lighter than what you put it down, so I don't want it to be like looking mostly white. Okay, I do want to cover all of my paper with color, but I do want it to feel pretty luminous and transparent. And we're doing a variety of these greens just to give it a little bit more visual interest. Okay, so you can see that there's transparency through it, and it's pretty light. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick dry. All right, now what I'm going to be showing you guys how to do is something that's called a negative painting or negative space painting. It's going to make sense once we get into it. If you've taken one of my classes before, you might have already done this, so you know exactly what we're going to be doing. I'm going to begin by drawing 3 leaf shapes, and I am going to point out the first 3 that I drew right here. You can tell they're the lightest ones, okay? And I want them going different directions, so notice how they're not all pointing the same way. And I also am sure that these 3 are not overlapping anywhere, okay? So I'm going to start by just lightly sketching in a leaf shape just in this corner. I'll add another one over here. You can make them bigger or smaller. You do want to have space in between to paint other leaf shapes. I'm realizing this one might be a little too big because my paper is a little bit smaller, so I'll maybe do something like that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to paint everything again except for these shapes. So I'm going to be painting around, so what's called the negative space. And the trick is that I now want my paint to be not quite as thin as what I just put down to make this first wash. Okay, so if you lay down the paint and we don't want it really dark. See this right here? That's after like a few more layers. This darkness, or opaqueness rather, is more on this. It's this one, okay? So if that is a little confusing, what I want you to do is you can, when you're laying down your paint, it'll be about the consistency of like juice, okay? So it's not as watery as what we just did because we laid water down first, so that, you know, naturally makes things lighter, but it is a little bit, you know, thinner, okay? We want to be able to, as you're painting around the leaf shapes, can you see the leaf shape kind of appearing, you know, standing out from what's surrounding it? If yes, then you're good. If no, then you probably need a bit more paint, okay? And I've got a biggish brush, let's see, size 12. And it's okay if you have, you know, some messy strokes, at least. Maybe this is more personal preference. I feel like that texture, uneven texture, works well for this kind of painting. If you don't like that, then you just want to make sure that you are being a little bit more intentional with your brush stroke. So you can see here, really slowing it down, pulling that water slowly and across, and like making everything really smooth. But sometimes I just don't care about that. So I don't do it. All right, just filling in that space around. And I can see those leaf shapes well, so I think that we are good. And I'm really grabbing this yellowy green because when we add more layers over the top, it's going to be harder to get that yellowy green to really give us a contrast we need, because it's just a lighter color. It's a lighter value, I guess, is a better way of saying it, than some of these other greens. So I'm trying to get it here while I can still see it. Okay. All right. So now that I've painted around these leaf shapes, I'm going to go ahead and give this another dry. All right. You really want to make sure that this layer is quite dry. Now I'm going to draw some more leaf shapes, but the trick is I'm going to have them overlap, but on the underside of these first three leaves. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to draw a leaf here. And again, I'm taking care not to make them all point the same direction. So I'm going to just draw a simple leaf shape kind of poking behind here. I'll do one, let's see, maybe I'll have one kind of poking behind here. I'm kind of imagining where it would come through, probably like that. And then I'll do another one. Let's see, where should I put you? Maybe I'll put you like over here. Okay, so I've got 3 more leaf shapes that I've drawn, and then we're doing the same process. So now when I paint this next layer, I'm actually not going to be adding that yellow green because again, I want to be able to layer in this color and be able to see this leaf shape appear. So I'm going to paint around this leaf shape and around that first leaf shape. Okay. So in this case, I'm using Hooker's green and some Viridian green in case you have the same palette as mine and you want to do that. And I would say that this has got a little bit more pigment and less water, but not a lot. Okay, so this might be the consistency of like milk. And the reason for that is because we're going to do another layer, and I really want to be able to make it dark enough that we can see it. And if I make this layer right here just really opaque, it's going to be hard to do another layer over the top and really to get the last leaf shapes to appear. Okay, so I'm just painting around. When I am close to a leaf shape, I'll use more of like maybe the tip of my brush so I can get in there a little bit better. You know, trying to be careful to paint around it. And then as I am further away, I'm going to use the side of my brush just to fill it in a bit quicker. That is something I find really helpful. Forgot about this area. So this is what I mean right here. This thickness of that paint is a little bit too much, so I'm just going to grab a bit of water. That's kind of maybe a lot of water. That's okay. I can add a bit more paint and then pull that down. And something else that I feel like is important, especially if you're new to painting, is, and I remember this for myself, like I'd have the tendency to just go over a spot so many times. And what happens is sometimes you'll end up overworking your painting. Maybe your paper starts to rip or pill a little bit. So we're trying to avoid that, okay? So, you know, you can go over it a few times, but we want to be really mindful, especially since we're already going to be doing so many layers, that we want to be gentle with our paper. This paper, if you're using the same kind of notebook as me, is not really great at holding a lot of layers. So if you've got 100% cotton paper, that paper does better. And so, you know, this part might not be as, you might not have to be quite as mindful of that, but that's not the paper I typically paint on. And the reason being is just it's more expensive. So I find that I just get too freaked out. I'm like, I don't want to mess up the good paper. And this is just my personal experience. I find that I paint a lot freer when I'm not worried about trying to paint on really expensive paper. Okay. So I've laid this down. I'm going to go ahead and give this a dry, and then we'll move on to another step. All right, I noticed right here, I didn't really get it quite as dark as I wanted to, but that's okay. I'm going to now add 3 more leaves. If I can fit 4, I will, but I don't really think I can. So I'm going to overlap behind these leaves now. So I'm trying to see where this would make the most sense. So maybe I'll do a leaf shape here, and you might have to draw in a bit darker so that you can see it. Go here. Let's see. Maybe I'll do a leaf shape poking out here. Where's my last one? Over here. It's not a ton of space. Let me see. Maybe I'll have it come over in this little general area. I feel like that would end like somewhere over here and then maybe come up here. All right. Okay. So now I've got 1, 2, 3 leaf shapes. So the last layer is going to be green mixed with some blue. And I've got ultramarine here. I just love ultramarine. It's a great blue. Probably one of my favorite blues to paint with. And I'm really digging in here. I'm trying to get more pigment. I really want this to show up. Okay. So I'm really going in. I'm loading up my brush with that color. Clean my brush because I'm going to grab some green. And I think I'm going to grab this Viridian. So we have a beautiful kind of like blue-green situation going on. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to paint around all of my leaf shapes. And this is, again, you don't want it to be super watery. What you're going for is, can you see the leaf shapes when you paint around? If yes, great. If no, then you might need more paint. All right, just trying to be careful around those shapes. Again, and you can do this sort of painting with other shapes. I've done it with butterflies. I've done it with like circles. So just like simple shapes. It's fun to do. Just filling that in. And if you lay down this color and you feel like it really is not dark enough compared to what you've already put down, what you can do, sorry, I have to think about this. I feel like there'd be like a little section right here. Okay, what you can do is dry this again and do another layer. So that's always an option. Again, just keeping in mind, like, you want to be careful if your paper is starting to like pill or anything like that, but you can for sure do another layer. I've also done this where my final layer is black, and so then it really should stand out. Just trying to get my color, the color I want, which has a little more green in it. And don't forget to use your paper towel, because your paper towel is a painting tool. Really helps you to control how much water to paint you have on your brush. My finger was stuck on that tape there. All right. Just bringing this down. And I love paintings like these because they are simple. Like once you get the hang of it, like it's pretty simple shapes, but it really invites me to like slow down And if you know me, I'm always just go, go, go. So I appreciate this time that I have to spend with you to just breathe, slow down. Okay, ran out of paint, so making some more. Looks like I'm almost out of ultramarine, so I'll have to order more. Just a note to self. Okay, paint around this. And if you love painting, you could try other negative space paintings. They're a lot of fun. I do feel like I didn't quite get these leaves to be quite as dark as I'd hoped, but okay, if that's you, what you could do is do another layer after, like on the leaves, after everything's dry. But for me, I'm gonna just call it good. I'm gonna say that's done. So I'm gonna give this a dry and then take the tape off, and there you have it. There is our negative space painting. As we painted today, you probably noticed that we didn't paint just one leaf, but many, layered together. And I think that's what this promise can look like in our own lives. Not always something big or obvious, but something that grows quietly over time, through small choices, through simple acts of love, through the way that we show up for the people around us. And maybe we don't always see the full picture, but God does. He sees how each moment, each act of service becomes part of something bigger. Something that continues to grow layer by layer. Thank you so much for joining me, friends. I'll see you next time. Bye.